Hi everyone, my name is Jordan and we're here at General Assembly today to talk about integrating Stripe for payments. I also did that chalk drawing behind us, so if anyone loves that, please do let me know and I can come do it for you anytime you'd like. So today Chris is teaching our class, and if you have any questions throughout the class, definitely feel free to ask and to add them to the chat. So with that, Chris, you can take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. So I have an idea for a startup. Ready?
Yes,
All right,
tell me.
It's a startup where I sell quotes by Oscar Wilde.
Amazing.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
I love it.
All right.
He's great quotes. He's some of the best quotes out there.
He does, and where else are you going to get those from but me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, not the internet, but you.
Yes. I'm poaching SciCat's idea a little bit. SciCat from Stripe. So Stripe is a payment company. You can make payments. And we're brainstorming startups. And this is the idea he came up with. And we thought that would be an awesome VC-funded Y Combinator project probably in 3 months from now.
Absolutely.
So we should get started on like a prototype where you could just start buying some of these quotes, right? We have about 5 or 6 so far. We're working on more. He's not around anymore.
Cool.
Irish poet.
Let's do it.
1800s. But we're working on it. We have 5 or 6. That's where we're at, and what we want to do is figure out the easiest way that we could set up payments so that we could start selling these quotes. That would be the ideal thing. He works here at General Assembly in New York City, and he kind of goes back and forth between San Francisco and New York.
Right.
We caught up with him a little bit earlier to talk about kind of what's coming up. So we're going to go through a tutorial today. We're going to go through a bunch of steps to create this. But first, why don't we just take a little look at SciCat and some of the ideas behind Stripe, what Stripe is, and why we might want to start using it for
awesome
payments. Yeah. So let's take a look at that. Could be like this. So I'm here with SciCat from Stripe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
So just tell us maybe what is Stripe for people who are maybe getting started with this live stream today.
Sure. So Stripe is a really simple way to accept credit cards on the internet. Basically expose an API that people can program against, and you can get up and running, accepting payments within 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, great. I mean, I've used it quite a bit, and it's amazing how quick I think you can just get the code, get the API, and just get going. So that's why we're here today. That's what we're gonna work on making. Why don't you just tell us, what do you do with Stripe, or how many people is Stripe, and just a little bit about your experience.
So Stripe's about 32 people now. I'm a product engineer there, so I've been working there for about a couple of years almost. So I mostly work on the API and the management dashboard and Stripe.js and basically all the products you see on Stripe.
Right on. Great. Awesome. So we're going to jump into the tutorial in a bit. We're going to go through that. But first, maybe just tell us a little bit about getting started with Stripe and just kind of some of the fundamental basics. When I work with e-commerce sites and payment sites, you hear a lot about PCI compliance and security. How does Stripe deal with that, or is that important?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, a couple other things, I guess. You probably hear things about merchant accounts.
Merchant accounts, payment gateways,
things like that.
Yeah.
So Stripe is actually kind of a one-stop solution. You just have a Stripe account and you can accept payments with that. You don't need anything else.
So you don't need a payment gateway anymore?
Don't need a payment gateway.
Right, like what were all those payment gateways back in the day? Authorize.net?
Yeah, Authorize.net. I think, or like you don't need a merchant account through like e-merchant solutions.
You don't have to go to a bank with like some money and like your credit card anymore. You can just go right to Stripe.
Yep.
That's kind of cool, because that stuff was a pain. You'd have to go to a bank, or like I don't know what else. Steps sometimes.
Basically, a lot of us at Stripe started our own businesses, and we all had to deal with that. So it's kind of why we started Stripe. So,
that's awesome.
But you brought up PCI, which is another good point. If you are accepting payments on the web, PCI is basically a set of standards set forth by the PCI Standards Commission.
And the government.
Yeah, they're not government, but they're a credit card network body that does regulation for credit cards. And if you accept payments, you have to follow these, or they come down at you and they say, no, you can't accept payments in this insecure way.
And you can get shut down.
Basically, yeah.
I was working at, I used to do restaurant websites, and we'd take payments anyway, for websites back in the day, and man, I saw some really bad practices of taking credit cards and storing them in like MySQL databases, just clean, like not even encrypted, Right. I think that is illegal now.
So it might be legal in some states.
Okay,
but
maybe in some states New York still allowed to do that.
So I don't think New York will get it, but I think Visa will probably get mad.
Oh, okay.
But essentially, like with Stripe, what we've done is we have this product called Stripe.js, which uses a tokenization API.
What is it, Stripe?
Stripe.js. And if you use this on your website when you're accepting payments with Stripe, the credit card actually goes to Stripe first. And it never even touches your server. So your website is never even, you don't have to deal with PCI. And so normally PCI is this like kind of onerous process. You have to fill out a bunch of paperwork and possibly do audits quarterly of your infrastructure to make sure that you're in compliance. But
cool. And so just to highlight the thing in there that this thing's really exciting is like what you said is the credit card never touches your server. So then therefore you don't have to worry about it getting hacked, or you don't have to worry about it getting stolen because you get a token instead, which is encrypted, and that's how Stripe works.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah, you can do that if you use Stripe.js, or the other thing we're going to go into in the demo is the Stripe button, which is
Stripe button.
Yeah, a new product we have in beta that.
So what is the Stripe button?
So Stripe button. So go back a bit further, like Stripe.js was this thing we released to kind of get you around PCI, and it's just this JavaScript API.
Okay, so it's the main API.
Yeah,
Stripe.
It's an API for creating these credit card tokens.
Right.
You still had to build your own checkout form, and you use Stripe.js to do so.
Okay.
The button's kind of our take on what we think the ideal checkout form should look like, and it's just this simple one-line drop-in solution that lets you immediately have a payment form and basically get up and running really fast.
Great. Yeah, I have this is the Stripe button right here, and you can just click and you get this light box kind of effect, and you never have to, like some of your competitors, you have to sometimes go to a different page, or you have to, reload, and this is just kind of Ajax, and it just pops right up, and it's pretty easy, right?
And it should be, and like the code for it is literally one line drop in.
Right.
And it's still in beta because we are actually trying to test it a lot and A/B test to make sure that it actually helps conversion rates on people's sites and things like that.
Great.
So we're hoping it'll be something that's kind of a no-brainer solution for people to use.
Great. So today the tutorial that we're working on, we're going to start with the Stripe.js, the button. We're going to start with the Stripe button, and then we're going to also do the Stripe.js as well, right?
Yeah. So.
And how is that? How
the things work together? Yeah. So basically, Stripe.js is this lower level API. It's literally just a set of calls to create your token and get a token back. And the button is actually built on top of Stripe.js. So on the button, when you click Pay, it's making a Stripe.js call to create a token and using that to make the charge. But the thing that you lose control of with using the button is the actual checkout form that comes up.
Okay.
Is something that's styled and made to look nice, but it might not fit with your site. So if you really want to customize your whole checkout process to a very fine-grained degree, then you probably wouldn't use the button. You'd integrate with Stripe.js directly, which is a bit more code, but that's
cool.
The trade-off.
Okay. So there's the button, there's Stripe.js. And we were talking before, if you're like Etsy or Shopify or Airbnb, and you have a really complicated kind of or more complicated situation where you're not only accepting payments, but you have a marketplace of people accepting payments and being paid out.
Right.
There's also, is it Stripe Connect?
Yeah, so Stripe Connect is our new product we just launched for exactly what you're saying, marketplaces and store builders.
Awesome.
So like Shopify is one of our users on top of Stripe Connect, and they use it to help their merchants get paid.
Awesome. Cool. So Stripe button and Stripe.js, those are what we're going to be working on today in the tutorial. And then Stripe Connect, they can go to the Stripe docs on the website, stripe.com, and learn more about that. Great. So the project we put together is, it is on, looks like it's on your GitHub site. We have it, right?
Yeah, it's on the Stripe GitHub.
Okay. And we'll be giving this out. And it is, do you want to just describe what
Sure,
we're doing?
So it's called Wild Things. It's little payment app for purchasing quotes by Oscar Wilde.
Right.
So,
yeah. Awesome.
it's kind of and it's 7 steps, but each of the steps is kind of its own standalone thing that could be the entire store.
Great. Yeah.
So we're going to go through kind of all the use cases, starting off with just purchasing one quote, and then say if you have customers who want to store their card on file with you, we go through that case.
Awesome.
And then
like
subscription billing,
reoccurring, and subscription billing as well.
well.
And we're going to code it in PHP, which is pretty easy to get started with. I know you guys offer PHP, you offer Ruby, a bunch of different languages. You have
so
APIs for, right? And frameworks.
We officially support PHP, Java, Ruby, and Python.
Awesome. Okay.
But there's also a bunch of third-party libraries that kind of the Stripe community has put together.
Okay. Is any one better than the other? If you were like,
it's hard for me to say.
Yeah.
I mean, the libraries that get the most use are often the languages that get the most use. Like the Node library is probably really good because a lot of people are using Node. But.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
You're back.
We're back, and I'm back. I don't know how to throw back to myself, but and here we are. So we're gonna get right into it. Let me just throw a few prerequisites right up front, and then we'll go into what we're gonna do step by step. But just so you have some time, we're going to need. We're gonna do this in PHP today. So you're gonna need some kind of web server to run PHP. If you have MAMP or WAMP. So MAMP for the Mac or Windows, MAMP is for the Mac, WAMP is for the Windows. Get both of or either of those set up. And if you have a web server, some hosting space, just maybe gun up your FTP so that we can load that up or Git or really whatever you're comfortable with. Just somewhere that we can put these files and run them. Again, we're going to be doing this in PHP. As SciCat had just mentioned, we really can do this in any coding language. There's so many libraries out there. There's Ruby, there's Python, there's Java. We can do this in many, but PHP is pretty easy to get started with. And he says that between PHP and Ruby, they probably have the most support questions and the most usage. So let's get right into it. So that's a warning. Take a few seconds to get that set up. And let's look at the 8 things that we're going to talk about today. So the topic is integrating payments with the Stripe API. So the first thing we're going to do is just a simple checkout with the button. Really easy to implement. Just a simple button, you click it, and you're able to make payments. The second thing is just looking at some debugging and error handling. Basically, how do we know a charge went through? How do we know if it didn't go through? This kind of stuff. Step 3 we'll just do some basic refactoring, which is really just kind of cleaning up separating out our code. That'll be a quick step, hopefully. And then in number 4, we will look at, okay, we have customers who are buying stuff on our site. Now, how do we store their credit card in a safe way so that when they return to our site, we can have them make another payment without actually having to put in the credit card again, which can be really annoying, right? You have to come to the site, you're like, I'm already here, why do I have to do this again? This will make it really easy it'll say, hey, we notice you're a returning customer, do you want to save your information with us? And you can just one click and you're good to go from there. Those are the main things that we'll be looking at. We'll be coding the first 3 of those, and then steps 4 to the end, we have the code. SciCat worked on the code for these here. We're going to talk through these concepts though, because it gets a bit heavy to code. All of that is available. We will have it. It's on his GitHub, the official Stripe GitHub, so that will be available. We'll give you guys that at the end. But these will be just the concepts we want to get down. Looking at subscriptions. So how do you set up payment for a reoccurring, maybe you have a magazine or some kind of newsletter, maybe you have classes on live streams and you want people to sign up for them monthly, like that. We should do this, actually. We should. 6 is webhooks, and we'll talk about that, essentially adding extra functionality. In 7, we'll talk about Stripe.js and how that's different from the button that we've been using. And then going live, some things to look for moving forward with that. So that's it. Those are the 8 steps, and we are just about ready to get coding. Are you good, Jim?
Let's kick it off. I'm ready.
All right, let's kick it, right? So if you have the files, I had sent some files. They were in the chat room, or they will be alongside this video moving forward. You want to download those files, and I just put them here. So this is my FTP client, but here you can see that what you should have is just a basic config, this public folder, this stuff here. We'll talk about what these mean, but this is the basic stuff that you should have moving forward. If you don't have this stuff, we're going to talk about, there's not much in here. This is basically a boilerplate, like a template to get started. And all of this, as you will see, is documented on Stripe's website. But I just kind of wanted to help us move ahead a little bit quicker. So that's what I gave you there. The final complete project, once we get it, will be set out into 7 steps here. And it'll be a full robust payment system. And also, as I mentioned, so this is MAMP. This is what you could be using locally to set up your PHP. And the files, and we will reference these at the end as well, they're set up on the Stripe, the official Stripe account at GitHub under Wild Things there. So Stripe/wild-things is where you can find that.
I've sent the link around to everyone.
Did you send the link around
Yes.
already? Yeah. So these are the completed steps. If you want to follow along, you might not want to, look at the completed steps here. That's why we gave you the other option of having the blank template as well. So that's what's going on. Let's get into it. All right. So in our Wild Things here. Okay. So step 1. If you look into step 1, there's really not too much in here. There's the basic kind of like get it running, some instructions on how to get set up with Stripe and all that kind of stuff. Well, before we even start getting into the code here, I know we're a little anxious, you want to get in and start coding stuff, but we need to visit the Stripe website and get an account. We all need a Stripe account. So this is stripe.com, right? So step 1, we want to just set up the simple checkout button. To do that, we need to come to stripe.com first, right? So we come here, it explains. The documentation here is amazing. That's really what attracted me to Stripe as opposed to a lot of other payment systems on the web. It was just so easy to get set up. I think their content strategy is probably really solid. They think about it a lot. If you come down to here, get started with Stripe, you'll be able to set up your Stripe account. This really just takes like 1 second. I think you could also just skip this step if you want to do it later. That seemed to work when I tried it earlier. So if you want to skip this, you can come back to it. But just simply put in your name, make up a password. I've already created one, so I'm just going to sign in. Awesome. And when you sign in, so take a second to do that, but when you sign in, it brings you to the dashboard here. So the dashboard is where all of our payments, our customers, if we need to make a refund, all of this kind of stuff, some metrics on, as we get some customers, of course, not doing too well with our Oscar Wilde quotes yet, but it's not set up and live yet. It will be. Once you get that all set up, all of that comes in. This is your dashboard. It's pretty awesome and easy to use. You'll notice that we're in test mode. Test mode is great because we can just basically run fake credit cards. I'll give you guys a list of those. They're on the Stripe site. And you can run these, sample credit cards, just to test your site like a sandbox. It's pretty awesome. But of course, when we're ready to go live, you just switch this over to live and real credit cards can get processed. So once we're in here, this is looking pretty good. We also want to just take a quick look at, if you go under your account, and account settings, there's just some information about our account up here. We'll want to look, we're going to need this a little bit later, but I want to just point it out while we're in the dashboard. These API keys, right? So these API keys are what allow us to access Stripe's API. They're just the basic keys to access them. Then you can notice there's the test ones here at the top, and there's the live ones here at the bottom. And so we're going to need to come in here and copy and paste these and bring them into our code in just a bit. So get set up with this. Hopefully that makes sense. I think now, once we have our account, I think we are pretty much ready to go. All right, cool. So in our code, if we just open up this index.php, and I can just open that in Sublime. I'm bringing that into Sublime. There's not too much in here, right? It's just this basic template here of HTML. I'm just including some CSS for styles. And if I come to my web server, so I just have this web server where I'm just going to FTP it because I think that makes sense. If I just want to just upload what I have so far to my server. Put that up there. Then we should be able to look at those files that I sent you guys on, let me close that, on the server. So here we go. I'm just going to my directory. And I just want to click into step 1. And like I said, I just basically gave this basic CSS kind of template for you guys. Where we want to get with this, though, I'm going to show you guys the completed one. What would be awesome in the completed one is if we could, just have some kind of landing page, Wilde things, Oscar Wilde. Purchase a quote by Oscar Wilde today. Only $535 American USD.
That's a steep price.
That's a steep price.
Yeah.
What? Do you know how much these are worth? Changed my life. And then down here where we click buy, we'll have this light box screen pop up. We're able to fill out our credit card, pay, and get a quote. So that is what we want to do. This is kind of where we're going with this. And everything I'm showing you here is using the Stripe button, right? So that's step number 1, just using the Stripe button, which is really just like the easiest way to get set up. You can see the Stripe button is its kind of thing is this light box that pops up and just makes it really easy. Whereas other sites that you may be familiar with, like PayPal or something, you click on that and it redirects you to a whole other page, right? And then you get the callback and you come back to the site. This is really nice. It's kind of just very Ajax right in the site, and you don't ever have to leave. It's super slick. So that's where we want to be. This is where we're at. Let's get started with this. All right. So in our code, how do we get started? Well, the first thing that we need to do when we're working with the Stripe API is we need to bring in the Stripe library. Jordan, do you know what a library is?
I do.
Yeah.
I think I do.
Let's take your best shot. Let's do it.
It's it's kind of like a stored set of directions.
Yeah. Kind of,
that you can kind of call up, and it'll do some, some pre-configured actions or formatting or styling for you.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. It's basically a set of code that is already written,
right.
That's available for us to include into our project, and we don't have to rewrite. There's this principle, dry, like don't repeat yourself kind of thing. Like they kind of like did the best of getting the Stripe API working with some classes and functions, and they allow us to use their code. So they kind of just started us off. If you need more information about that, if you go to stripe.com/docs/button here, you'll see all the information about the button. And again, like I showed you guys, just this easy kind of click up thing that we got here. And the basic setup for how to install the button, right? Now, I'm going to walk you guys through this in the easiest way possible. But one thing that we need is that library. And if you see, I clicked into the PHP there from the button, and then clicked into PHP so that we're up here at docs button guides PHP. Just follow along if I'm going a little bit quick, because I already downloaded the library for you. It's in the files. You might want to get the most recent version depending on when you're working on this, if it's not live right now. But essentially just clicking here, they have it for you. You click here, it downloads it, and you would be able to get the Stripe folder, which is this. This is what you get in the download. It's just their library, the license, all that kind of stuff. And so I've already done that step for you guys. Now you know where to get it. You get it from the website, from the button, PHP docs. And we're just going to include that here in the root of our project so that every step or every mini, sub project we make, we'll just reference that library. We don't want to copy it into every step here. That'd be kind of messy. So just put it here in the root, and again, I've done that for you, so that makes it easy. And well, if it's in the root, then we can, now that we know what it is and where it is, we can just include it into our project. And so the first thing I want to do is just write some simple PHP here that will include that in my project. And so we want to do require once. Require once, just pulling it in, and I'm just going to go back a directory, right? Because if you look, we're in step 1, so we want to come back one directory and go into Stripe, into the library, and stripe.php. So that's the first step, just including that library into our project. And I can even make a little comment here. Include the library will be the first step. Okay, great. We don't need to upload this. There's nothing exciting that really just happened there, but the idea would be that if you upload it, right, and we come back to the browser here, and I refresh, I always like to think that if there's no errors when you're including a library, it probably means you did it right. So it looks pretty good to me. If there was errors, you might want to check your syntax here. So now we have the library included, so we can start to use the classes, the API, all the goodness of the Stripe website. Again, if we go to the Stripe, I'm just going to go to the Stripe documentation, you'll see that they've given us some example code. So let's just get the concepts here. There's just a few things here, and they separated them for us in 3 steps. The first thing we're going to do is just configure and set our secret key and our publishable key, and be like, hey Stripe, this is us. Remember that thing I showed you guys in your dashboard? The key, that's like your password. It's kind of like an encrypted password. And so we're going to put that in there, the secret key and the publishable key, so that we're basically saying, hey Stripe, it's who we say we are. That's our credentials. The next part of this is we're going to make the button. We're just going to simply kind of just drop in the button. They gave us some code. We're able to kind of put that in there following the sample. And then the third thing we're going to want to do is say, hey, when someone presses that button, charge the card, or don't, or because maybe there's an error, but that's the idea, right? So again, first thing we're going to do, set up our credentials. Second thing we're going to do, we're going to put that button in, and then third thing, when you click that button, it'll make a charge. That's the basic flow, and we kind of broke it down here. We'll do it step by step so that we all understand what's going on. So we want to set up a variable. We'll set up the Stripe variable there, and we need to make an array, right? And it's in that array that we set up the secret key. And we'll put our secret key here. We'll come back and do that in a second. And then the next is we want to do the publishable key. And put key here. So we'll drop those in a second. And then we'll just close out. So we're just making an array, which is going to go to the Stripe variable here, and then using that library, right, Stripe, we're going to set the API key, and we're going to send that secret key over like that. So that should be pretty good. For the newbies out there, again, this is all on the Stripe website. We're just typing it out by ourselves and getting the concepts here. So you have that at your disposal and in the GitHub later. But let's move forward. So now we know we need to tell Stripe, hey, it's us. We want to go to account settings. We want to find those API keys. Take a second to do that. And we have our test secret key. I'm just going to copy this. Come back. I'm just going to paste that here for my secret key. And then the publishable key. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that here. So the secret key we really want to be, if you're wondering, the secret key we really want to be secret with, that's pretty sensitive. The publishable key, it's not as imperative that we don't expose it, if you were using JavaScript or it got exposed, if you had to have that available. But that's what we're doing here. We're setting those up. Looking good. All right. So again, I'm just going to get through that first step. I'm going to upload this to my server. I'm going to replace it. And let's refresh and make sure everything looks good. Still looking pretty good. All right, I think we're in good shape here. All right. So that second step is set up the credentials. Good. Okay, cool. So now we have our credentials set up. We want to include that button into our project. So the button code, it's really just a form that we need to include. For this, I'm just gonna move ahead and I'm just gonna grab that from the site. We'll just grab that here. That basically just looks like this here. I'm just gonna drop that in. I'll leave it up on the I'll leave it up on the screen for a second so that we can talk through it. But here, I'll just put that there for now. Clean that up a little bit. So that's just a form action, right? So we're making a form essentially, and what's going to happen is when the user comes, let me upload that to the server so you guys can see what that looks like. Out of here. Right, so that's just this button here, right? It's not going to charge. If I put some stuff in right now, it would probably just chug along, and I don't think it would charge for us. But just by copying that code, you get the button. You know, it's kind of like a Facebook like button or something simple like that. The thing here that we want to kind of customize is, well, first off, the amount for our quotes. This here, 5000, this is $50. Like you would read it like that, basically. That's why it's like that. That is just way not expensive enough for our quotes. So we need to make them 535. That's about right, $535. Yeah, I was just thinking through if I should raise it, but I think that's fine. $535. And the description, so that when it hits our log files, we'll get some kind of description for ourselves as well. And maybe we just want to call that one wild quote there. Looks good. Everything there is pretty standard. And finally, what we want to do is, I'm just going to code all of this in one file for you guys so that it's really easy to see the flow. You could, we'll separate this in a bit, but here's the idea, guys. Getting ahead of myself. If you're not familiar with what I did, index.php, basically what I'm doing is I'm telling this button that when it's clicked, to reload this page that I'm in, right? Because we're in index.php here, see, index.php. So what's happening is it's saying, hey, when you click this button, reload this page here. And the reason we want to do that is with PHP, we're able to decide, hey, when the page loads, do one thing. When it loads a second time on post, do something else. And what that looks like, I'm just going to code that out quick so we can see this process here. But essentially we're saying, if post, which means, hey, if this person's coming back, if they've posted some data, i.e. click this button, do something, right? Oop. There we go, that's better. Do something. And we might just say, echo button clicked, like that, so that we get a message. So it's going to print that out. Or, on the other side, we might want to say, hey, if somebody hasn't clicked the button, then do something else, which is really just the first time you come to the page. That may be like a weird concept if you're if you're kind of new to back-end coding or script programming languages and all that. But that's the idea. This is fairly common. So the first time you come to the site, well, we might want to do something like, I don't know, just put like a title for the page, that kind of thing. Right now, I'll just put like, welcome, want to buy a quote. Something like that. No questioning. Like, that's not serious, no. Welcome, buy these wonderful quotes. There we go. That's better. We sounded unsure of ourselves for a second. Okay, well that looks pretty good. So what I want to test now when I upload is, I've copied in the button. I'm telling it to redirect to this page. So essentially when I press this button, it's going to reread this code from the top to the bottom. But when it gets here, it's going to say, hey, is this the second time they're coming to this page? tell them the button's clicked. Else, if it's the first time, just give them the intro message. Let's take a look and see what that. I'll upload that using transmit. Come back to my project. Okay, so see what we have here. The first time we come to the page, we get welcome by these wonderful quotes. Oops. And so it read through here the first time. It said, are they returning? No. It prints this out. Okay, that's what we said it was going to do. If I refresh, it's not fooled. It knows you didn't press the button. But now, when I press the button, I'll put in, and I'll give these to you guys in a second, so just watch along with this. But these are, if you do all 4 2s and 12, and just some, if you do all 4 2s, that's just a example credit card you can do. And 1212, as long as it doesn't expire before today. And then you can just put any name, so I'll just put Chris. And put any numbers for the card code. So this is the sample credit card, just to get it going. Let's see if it works. Pay. Looks like it worked. Button clicked. Okay. So now we're getting this other experience, right? Again, it came through. It said, oh, they're coming back to the page. Here, do this. Jordan, let me check in with you, man. How is that making sense? Or
it's good. It's good. Yeah. Thankfully, Sidecat's in the chat, so he's answering a lot of our users' questions.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, right on. Well, this is great. You've come to the site, and now this is really powerful because what we can do here, instead of saying, hey, the button was clicked, instead what we can do is, I'll just put a comment here. We can charge the credit card. Because we didn't actually charge the card, we just kind of pressed the button, right? Or else we can show the welcome screen, right? And so we can just kind of, elaborate on those a little bit more. So let's get coding with that. Instead of having just this, echo welcome, I'm going to break out of PHP here so I could insert some HTML. And I think what would be cool is just to put like, an H2 here. Just kind of decorate a little bit, the title, all things like that, and an H3 here, and so purchase a quote. Lots of exclamation points. Awesome. Okay. So that's just, it'll look a little bit better to have some of that there. It's pretty self-explanatory. And instead of echoing button click, well, now I want to charge the card. Now, again, this is in the docs. You can read through that, but I just want to talk through it because that should hopefully make some sense. What we want to do is we're just going to assign this to a variable called charge, and we'll use the Stripe library here to create an array. Perfect. Okay. So I'm setting up this array, and in the array, what I need to have is the card. So I need to have the card. Now, here's the cool thing, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more. This is the token, so we don't actually ever have the card hit our server. That's what Sidcat and I were talking about in the beginning of the video. So it doesn't actually hit your server, you just get this token, which is pretty sweet. So that's what that is there. We're assigning that token.
And that's a really big deal, right? I mean, if you don't ever have to deal with a credit card number, you are relieved from a number of responsibilities for your company, right? About data security and
yeah, all of that, right?
And privacy and all that good stuff.
Yeah, all of that for sure.
Cool.
And that can become a burden. And this is great for just getting started, especially for startups. This is like, or any scale company, but this is great for. So here we go. Charge the card. This is what we need to set the charge for the card. And this is what we need for the welcome screen. And this is the form. So let's see where we're at now at this. I'm just going to upload this project now. Okay. So take a look in the browser. Refresh. Okay. So what's going on here? Well, first off, we have an error. So, but I know what that is. So we're gonna fix that in a second. But okay, there we go. So we have the welcome screen, wild things, purchase, etc. And we do the pay with card, and we'll put that card number in again. And we'll pay. Looks good. Cool. It worked. We didn't get our quote yet. That's the final thing. We just have to put the quotes in. But it looks like we paid. At this point, I may want to do some, check my log, do some error testing. I'm going to come back to the dashboard. I'm just going to refresh and see if any payments have come in. Okay, no payments yet. But let's see the log. What's going on with the log? Okay, looks like everything's going good here. All right, so we can see the user, we can see the card they're using, all this kind of stuff. That's pretty good. All right, that's pretty good. Let's come back here. All right, so we need to get those quotes in, and we need to make sure that that credit card is indeed charging successfully. So, let's see. Those quotes, I gave those quotes in this quotes.php. This file's only purpose here is really to just kind of has this array so that we didn't have to copy all of that content. And so if we come to and just copy this into our project, we want to put that just right below here into our project, the wild quotes. And now, when they come to the site, we can take one of those wild quotes from the array, because they've paid, and we can change the screen. So we might say, here's your quote, like that. And then we might say, H2. We'll take one of those quotes from wild quotes, right? And let's see, why don't we just take a random one from there? We'll just take array random. Yeah, we'll just take one of these here. Throw that in there from the array. Oops, forgot that. Like that. Close this out here. So we'll say, hey, here's your quote, and then in the H2, we'll print out the quote for them there. And then we come down here, and okay, this is the home screen. That looks pretty good. And down here we have the button still. Okay. The button, we want to put this, let's see, so we're reading through here, you come to the site for the second time. Yeah, we want to put this also right here, right below, I'm just going to put that right there, right below the home page here, right? So that we have this home page experience here, right? Else, so if you're coming to the site for the first time, you get this, and then on the second time, you'll get this experience. It'll check your credentials, charge your card, give you a quote. That was about right. That's the way we want to think about that. So I'm going to save that out. I'm going to upload it here this time. And we're going to take a look and see how it's going. Refresh. The error, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I'm just going to give it a clean refresh. Okay, looks good. Pay with card. Cool. We do a 424242. There we go. And we get our quote.
Oh my God, that's
cool.
So exciting. That's awesome.
That's cool, right?
That's so awesome.
And so that prints out. We went a little quick, I think, or maybe slow for, it depends what level you're at. This code is all available to you guys, so hopefully that helps. If we come to our dashboard now, boom, we're making bank. You can see that we now have the money coming in. It's been a pretty profitable day. We can go to payments, and we can see the users who have been coming in. with Stripe, you can assign various metadata, surrounding the user, the customer. You can set up customers for reoccurring customers and all that kind of stuff in here. But this is how you manage all your payments, and it looks like we are off to a success. Looks pretty good. So, how are we doing? How are things going, Jordan?
Good,
Doing all
good.
right?
Yeah, I think people are loving it.
All right, cool. So I just wanted to add a few more things to this code to improve it a little bit, and then I'm going to talk through the other 7 or 8 steps just to kind of get the concepts down, and then it'll be everyone's homework if they want to go through and go that far. But SciCat has, especially just for GA, put together all this code, and we're both really excited because we love Stripe, so we're happy to get this up. So before we go to that, let me add one more thing here in the code that I think can improve it. You guys have already, because you've already seen these errors that we've been getting, right? I keep getting these errors sometimes, or I can get another one now if I refresh this page, error like that. What's happening here is we just need some error handling on this, right? So error handling, if you caught kind of what I did there, I made a payment and then I refreshed the page. So it's like as if I was gonna maybe force the payment again. Sometimes you used to see at the bottom of the screen, it'd be like, hey, don't click twice or something like that. That's because, certain clients, they didn't want you to charge your card twice or something like that. Well, Stripe protects against that. They won't allow you to charge your card twice by that. But you get this messy error if we don't set up error handling, which is just like, what are you doing? It's like, I don't understand. So that's one reason why we want to get some error handling. Another reason is because what if you put in a credit card and it gets declined? Now, we haven't set it up where we're telling the user, hey, your credit card number isn't correct, or your expiration number is expired. These kind of validation things are really nice for our customers. Otherwise, they're just going to get a blank screen for this error. So in step 2, so now I'm just going to go to our steps. I'm just going to copy this here, step 1. I'm just going to copy this, make a step 2, just so we can separate those there. Okay. Back here. So I just copied step 1 and step 2 so that we could show the difference and add some debugging. All right, so the main thing that we want to do here is we want to say, hey, right before you're going to make this charge here, right? Well, let's test when you're coming back to that page for the second time. Let's test and we'll try this. And if it fails, we're going to set up an error message, right? So that's called a try catch in programming, right? And so the way we want to do this is we'll just set up a variable for error and we'll make it null. We'll just say, there is a variable, there's nothing in it. So just follow me with that. We'll set up that variable there, and then we'll do this try, right? And then inside the try, we'll do if. So I'm going to type this out if you guys want to follow along. And then we'll talk about it once I got it up on the screen. Stripe token. Do that, Stripe token. So we're pulling that Stripe token. There we go. From the API. Good, good. And then we'll say throw new exception. That looks pretty good, right? And in the try, we want to move our there. So this is now all there, part of that there, right? So we're essentially saying, hey, try this out. If we haven't set the token, right? So if it's the first time, if you haven't set the token, we can either throw this exception or we could charge the card, right? So we're just kind of going through that drill of charging the card. But if the card doesn't charge correctly, then what we're going to want to do is, down here, is catch the error, right? So what's the error? And this is pretty standard if you've done some coding before. Catch the error in a variable called e, and we'll assign that to our variable error here. So then error will be the message that comes from Stripe on why we have an error, essentially, right? So try to charge it if they're coming for the first time. Otherwise, if there's some other weird situation, like the card doesn't work or they're coming for a second time or something like that, well, find the error, and if you can, catch it so that we can do something with it. I'm just going to come and upload my step 2 here. Let's see. Come back here. I'm going to bring step 2 on the server. There we go. Got that in there. Get this here. Okay. And now if we do step 2, right? Okay. And we come and we pay. Let's see if we avoid that error. Looks good. We're here. Let me refresh. Cool. No more error, just another quote, because on refresh you just get another quote. So we're not getting the error anymore because it's suppressing it. It's saying, hey, no, I know you're coming to the site for a third, fourth, fifth time. I'm not going to allow you to enter that bit of code here where it charges the card. We're just skipping that. So that's what the error handling does. Now we have the error here. You can't see it on the site yet because we're not printing it out. We're not echoing it. But with a few more steps, it'd be pretty easy to just say, hey, echo this error. You just put it right under here, and then it would report it out. You could add some styles and HTML to it later to make it a little more nicer to view. But essentially, you could put an error where if this didn't work, it'd say, hey, buddy, your card doesn't work. Go back, or something like that. So that's what's going on in step 2. There's a bit more code in the example. Just a few more lines just to clean some stuff up. But I think that's the general gist of it. So I think that should help there. All right. So that's setting up Stripe with the Stripe button. That's pretty much all you need to know to get set up. Again, the docs are out there. The GitHub's out there. I'm going to talk through the rest of the steps here just to kind of show you what else Stripe can do. And because you guys have this code, it's pretty awesome to if you want to have some homework and go with that. So in the completed code here, let's take a look. So up until now, in step 1 and step 2, we've just been working in this index file, which is fine. All right, it's a cool site, but it's pretty simple. I'm not going to lie. If you're making a bigger site, you have a template, you're using Rails or you're using WordPress or whatever you're using, you want to refactor your site into the different sections. It just keeps it a little bit neater. And so in step 3, that's all we're doing. We're just taking that one file and separating it out. You can see the footer, these 3 lines become footer.php. The header just gets moved to header.php. And then the index just kind of holds it all together, right? And we have the payment form and the charge, just kind of all separated out. So you'll see really nothing's changed in the code from step 2 to step 3, except that we refactored it into these different files and we're able to include those separately. So that's steps pretty much just organizing our code. Not too much to worry about there. In step 4, things get interesting. So step 4 is, what if you wanted reoccurring customers?
You mean like subscriptions?
Not subscriptions. So yeah, maybe I didn't say that, but like a returning customer, right? So a customer comes to your site, they make a payment, and then why don't I just show the final? Why don't I just show the final actually? So we'll go to step 4. Okay, so step 4. Thanks, Jordan, for telling me. Step 4 is I'm going to buy something, but when I come to buy something, your mom buys something. She can leave her a username, so we'll make it my username, right? And a password, so I'll just make it ABC or whatever, and I buy something. All right, cool. So now I've bought my quote. There we go. So everything we've seen so far, right, in the first two steps. But now, what if I come back to this site, right? Another day, I want to buy something else on your site. And what we did here is, in the background, we saved that in a database. So kind of a cheap database you'll see in a second. But so that now I could reuse that username and password and come to the site, ABC, log into the site, and then it's like, hey, would you like to pay with your card ending in 4242?
Cool.
So that's what we're talking about, right? Really just hooking this into the login system of your e-commerce store or your Wildlings. And then you can say yes, and then it will make an additional charge here. You still get the quote. Things are great. So that's what we're doing in step 4 with the returning customers. And that should be pretty good. Step 5, I'll just go through the steps here so that we can see. So it looks a little scary maybe, but this is what we worked out for subscriptions, right? So, you know, these Oscar Wilde quotes, they are catching on and people are signing up like wildfire, and they wanna get a quote daily, right? And we want to charge their card daily with, you know, without having to remind them to click that button, without sending them emails. We just want it to charge automatically. And that's what we've set up here. So it's the same thing, step 4, we're having them, you know, set a username, set a password. They can log in, but now they can go one step further and set up what is basically a customer, right? That's what we call it in Stripe. The customer, if we go to the dashboard here, what we want to do so that they are able to come back in the subscription dashboard is to create a monthly plan, right? So what you do is you go to plans here and reoccurring plans. So this is what you'll need to do in step 5. Create a step plan here. And you could set something like monthly or daily, obviously. Set up a name for it. We can make it cheaper for daily. We could say it's like $120 per quote, right? Interval. Daily's not even an option. Damn my notes. No wonder they say monthly. So daily, and create the plan. And now that we've set up this plan here, in the step 5 code, you'll see that we're able to, you know, just charge to that plan and save that customer. So that's what we're doing in step 5. Step 6 is, well, step 6 is going to be working with webhooks. Jordan, you know what a webhook is?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It sounds dangerous.
Yeah,
You use it the wrong way.
Right, wow.
Yeah.
Captain Hook. Huh? So here's the thing. So we've done payments so far, and everything seems pretty straightforward. Well, what if you wanted to do some fancy thing? Like what if every time somebody makes a payment on your site, there's a cha-ching?
Yeah.
Like, that'd be kind of cool, right?
That would be cool.
Or what if you wanted some kind of like customized, you know, receipt, so that when you receive a payment, you send some kind of customized receipt through your own billing system.
Right.
Or another situation that I've seen sometimes is, what if you have a reoccurring payment, right? And the person has a card on file, but then the card stops working, right? Maybe it expired or something. Like, how do you keep track of all the, you know,
right.
Oh, okay, maybe you want to get in touch with them, maybe you want to send them an email or something,
right.
some automated thing. There's a bunch of kind of just like, you know, outlying situations depending on the product you're making. That's where webhooks come in. So it's taking the basic functionality and then customizing it using these webhooks for what you want to do. What we've done is we've set up a webhook here, if you want to look at step 6 here in the hook.php, right? So what we did with the webhook here is just basically set up like a basic email thing so that it sends the email for you for like some kind of receipt. So that's pretty sweet. And finally, in step 7, oh geez. Well, the buy button's been great so far. And what the buy button comes with is, if you remember, that light box that pops up. But if you don't want the light box, that's when you want to use, in step 7, we look at Stripe.js. So including with Stripe.js so that you can make your own form and essentially set this up here and kind of built right into your system. So this is taking Stripe really to the next level, including it into your project and really just kind of integrating it seamlessly so that you don't have that button or the pop-up. I mean, that's great for getting started for most cases, but here we have, you can integrate it right into the form, and that's called Stripe.js. So that's in there too. That's part of the library. All of that's in there. That's pretty much everything to go. Step 8 would just be getting live, just going live with it, and making money, really, and make some bling, I think. I will give a few pieces of advice when you're going live. You want to make sure, just to remember when you go live, to go into your account settings and use the API keys that are the live secret and publishable. So a lot of people forget that, right? We put those in our config here. So you need to update these to the live ones. These are just testing. So that's something you'll want to remember to do. You'll also want to set up SSL on your site, right? So you can see right now, I'm just kind of running it off my local, and that's fine. This is testing, I'm not so worried about that. But when you go live, you want to have the HTTPS, so that's called an SSL. It costs about somewhere around $12 a month. You can get it from your hosting company or GoDaddy or one of those, and have that installed. And that will make things awesome and wonderful and secure for you. So those are the 8 steps, 8 just going live. SciCat has outlined them all here. And I hope people have fun. If you guys make anything, please send it to
that'd be awesome.
GA, at reply what you guys
totally
to our at GA.
We'd love to see what our students create.
For sure. We'd love to see it. SciCat has been so helpful. He's been in the chat room a little bit.
Yeah, he's been answering a ton of questions.
Answering tons of questions.
Yeah.
He is wonderful. And check out his GitHub. And that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. This was really, really cool.
Awesome. Cool.
Thanks, everyone.